Hi everyone, Dawn here. I want to talk a bit about my new diagnosis: ADHD, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and dyslexia. I am in isolation in my room due to COVID. I'm mostly fine, so we're gonna just make videos. As I was starting to think about getting diagnosed for ADHD, my case is a little bit complicated, so I needed some specialists, which is actually not cheap. And it's part of what has held me back in the first place. But I had a bit of money and I've been sitting here in COVID thinking about it for a long time and reading books about it. And I just had to know. People I was approaching, my friends, my family, my doctor, my therapist, were all like, why do you need a label? And I want to explain a little bit about why that is ableist and why you're holding people back by not letting them get diagnosed. ADHD is like more complicated, so I'm going to use this dyslexia as a example because it's a little bit more straightforward. Here's a can of black beans. What's this? It doesn't have a label. How are you supposed to know what's in it? How do you know how to approach it? How do you know how to cook it until you open it, right? Here I can tell you what's inside it: black beans, water, calcium chloride. Easy. Here, I know nothing. Just me banging my head against the wall. For years and years, that was me banging my head against a wall. Walls, like I didn't graduate school. I tried for years to graduate and I had no idea why I couldn't. And it really actually, you might see, made me really emotional because I tried everything. I persevered. My goodness, this is my best strength, is perseverance. And still just kept hitting walls and I had no idea. Years ago, a doctor had suggested to me that I go to a specialist because my case is a bit complicated. And that is not cheap. It's a lot of money. It's quite a gatekeeping problem for people like me who are artists, honestly forced into art because they have dyslexia or something else which they're fighting against. I finally got some money and I finally started pursuing this, with the COVID thinking and being in home and being like, okay, let's do this, right? And people kept saying, like, why do you need a label? And I want to tell you, this diagnosis is the best thing that's ever happened. From this point on, I can tell you already that my life is changing rapidly. My sense of self, my internal monologue, all of this stuff is changing because now I understand that it's dyslexia. During the tests, I started getting really tired and I started having panic attacks about being tired, which when I was talking to the doctors in the past, they used to say, no, that's just anxiety making you tired. But actually, the dyslexia itself can cause exhaustion because you're working so hard to read. And so for a long time, I was approaching the wrong problem. It wasn't anxiety. Yes, anxiety was happening because I was struggling to read. So for a long time, without a label like that can, I just didn't know what I was up against and I was exhausted and I had no idea why. The solution to that was so easy. For every 45 minutes of focus and concentration I do, I need about 15 minutes break. I just need to have a little snack, go pee, maybe check my phone, have a drink of water, and then go back to work. And this has been life-changing. All of a sudden, most of my anxiety's gone. Boom! So treating the wrong problem is a huge deal. But why don't we want to label people? What is the problem with the diagnosis itself? Why are people even saying like, oh, you shouldn't do that? And I would say it's this. When people say you have a diagnosis, they say, oh, dyslexia. That means you can't read, right? And that's a myth. It's just like people with dyslexia actually can learn to read and they have different sort of coping strategies. I'll probably get into this in another video, but I'm a bit of a whole brain thinker. I see words sort of as whole pieces, but this means like diary and dairy kind of are the same word to me, or Brian and brain. I had that problem at work years ago when I was filling out certificates all the time, and they were so mad that I kept spelling Brian and brain interchangeably. If you're not looking to diagnose people, what I would say is it's actually complete denial of problems. And there's a few reasons why people want to deny this. They want to avoid stigmatization. The thing is that the denial of problems is a type of stigmatization. It means that people like me end up at 40 without having any tools to understand exactly what they're up against. If I was diagnosed in school, then I would have maybe graduated university because somebody would have given me accommodations. They would have understood, oh, you're an oral processor, you could do more oral work, video work, or you could use technology to have the text be read to you through that instead of exhausting yourself trying to read all of this stuff. The second stigma that people want to avoid is dehumanization. And that's what happens when, say, you end up in a mental institution. A lot of people end up denying you your human rights because they think that you don't understand what's going on, and that a lot of people with mental illness end up dehumanized and treated as a child or worse, just as an object or something to be dealt with, without actually listening to you or letting you solve your own problems. That's a huge one that we do face a lot in our society, also ableist. And that's one thing that we're trying to avoid with the denial stigmatization. Now, I want to say there is a solution to this, which is when people approach diagnosis, I suggest that instead of approaching it with a fixed mindset, saying dyslexic people can't read, we approach it with a growth mindset. So people with dyslexia have the obstacle of reading. And how do we get around that obstacle? How do I change my path so this isn't so disabling? We should consider that a lot of our stigmatizations about mental illness is really about that fixed mindset that this means this, and it doesn't have any other options. But there are so many ways that people deal with different disabilities and so many ways that you can get around the obstacles. It means more creativity. Our society doesn't have the ability to see that multiple realities exist, that maybe some people are like this. Dyslexia means the letters flip upside down and around. And yes, that's true of some dyslexic people. I'm not one of those people. I don't see everything sort of flipping around, although perhaps my letters work might suggest otherwise. Maybe I am compensating for that and I don't even see it in my conscious mind. I'm not really sure yet. I just wanted to put that out there because it's been such a huge part of this journey, being like, am I really crazy? Is it really too much to be labeled? Man, I just wish that somebody had labeled me years and years ago so I understood what my obstacles were, so I wasn't so faced with barriers by myself without any accommodations. The good news is I feel really excited about this diagnosis. I'm going to be applying to York University for a master's program, seeing if maybe that works now that I have accommodations. This allows me to grow and actually succeed more. I mean, we'll see. I just want to talk about that today, and I hope that is interesting to you. And I appreciate you guys all listening to me. I hope it's a great day, and spring is here. Enjoy the sunshine. Bye.